Hi, welcome back to Elements in Focus. My name is Rheaume. I'm the Director of Financial Planning, and I have the pleasure of having Grant Soliven, the manager of our advisor operations team. Grant, how are you
I'm
today?
doing awesome, man. I appreciate you asking. We're so glad to have all of you with us today.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Grant and I really enjoy doing these topics. As you know, we cover our 5 critical elements, and those are listed on the screen. Today, we're going to be focused on legacy planning, and we say this often. In these 5 areas, we can break down just different topics. Success is not dependent on one thing, but failure can be, and so that is why we go through each one of these areas in detail. So today, Grant, we're going to talk about probate, the good, the bad, the ugly.
hmm
And what is probate and what's the good, the bad, the ugly of it?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. So, probate simply means the process where your estate, all of the valuables you have, assets, collectibles, all of that goes through a state-run process to divvy up your assets to your heirs. That's simply what it is to take what you own and to get it in the hands of your heirs, your beneficiaries, or your estate. And so that's what probate is. It's generally designed, in the state of Indiana in particular, if you don't have a will that guides the probate process, Indiana will create one for you. I don't know how it works in many of the other states, but just be aware that's the case. And let me tell you, you kind of want to have your own. The state's not going to really look out for all of your best wishes, and they don't know your situation. So, an element of probate that can be good. So, when you have property, real property like a house, land, etc., go through probate, and there are multiple individuals out of state who are going to inherit that land through the probate process, probate can be a good system to make sure that everything is done correctly, and that the court controls the process for all those people who are out of state who may not be able to get there quickly enough to maybe assist in the process of getting the estate broken out to the rest of the heirs. So that's a good part of probate. Probate generally gets a bad rap because it's kind of costly. And it's not necessarily necessary if you have your assets lined up, you know where they want to go. So, in that example of real property, homes, land, etc., many states have now allowed for you to put a transfer on death, a passing on death designation on that land so it can skip the probate process, like retirement assets, like brokerage assets, like bank accounts. So it's to skip probate, and if you already know how you want your heirs to receive the land, by deed percentage. So for my sister and for myself, for example, my mother has a ladybird deed, which is that transfer on death designation on her house and her property. So we know that my sister and I are going to get the property,
Hmm.
and then we'll deal with it, and it skips probate. Okay, so that's a good. The ugly is probate can be kind of costly, and if you don't communicate with a document, things can get out of hand. So, for example, one of my family members, they did not know their executor on an estate, kind of got thrown into it after the passing of their mother, and it was a nightmare.
Hmm.
So, assets couldn't be found for a long period of time, and then they did get found after the estate was closed and had to reopen it. And so it just gets costly from because you're paying attorneys either an hourly rate or a fee on the property and the asset, and it gets long. So most people want to wrap up probate quickly. Unfortunately, can be anywhere from a 6 to 26 month process. So probate in and itself is not a bad thing. However, you can make it fairly efficient with the proper documentation and the proper process that's laid out in place. And so again, and the other element too is maybe in evaluating the estate situation and the probate situation, you may realize you need a trust and what that looks like. So this is
Hmm.
a very legacy planning is not something as simple as going to an attorney and getting a boilerplate document to list out what needs to happen with your estate, money, resources, and transferring to the next generation. There's a lot that goes into it, and Aaron and I have specifically seen, along with Darren and Joe, other 2 team members, a lot can go wrong in this category, especially because things change.
Absolutely.
I mean, Aaron, you saw last year, was it this year, a document that hadn't been updated since 1984.
Yeah, and we see that often.
Yeah,
Uh,
so these documents must be updated because there are people who are no longer even alive in some of these estate documents. So just double check those and look into them.
Yeah, great point, Grant. And as you mentioned, the probate process, it does have the good, the bad, and the ugly. The ugly is if you like you mentioned, don't have an executor appointed and you have to follow that process. It costs time, money, and really a lot of headaches for your beneficiaries or your heirs having to deal with that process.
Yeah.
So if you're working with us at FEG, we're making sure your beneficiaries are up to date. We make sure that we talk through these types of things because we want to make sure end-of-life things transition in the best way possible. So if you need more information or would like to come in for what we call a next steps meeting, which is completely complimentary, reach out to us at 800-928-4001. You can send questions to talk to FEG at yourlifeafterwork.com. Ask for Brittany. She'll get you a meeting scheduled with one of the advisors on our team. And if you want to dive deeper into these topics or content, you can listen to our rebranded show. It is used to be called the Consider This program. It is now Your Retirement Playbook. And so WIBC is where our radio show is aired, in a couple other stations that you can see on the screen. You can podcast us. We are more than happy to help. Just reach out to us, and thank you for listening and watching.